Welcome to Tea Time with Bunky. What's his message? Hi, Dan. All right.
Welcome to Tea Time with
Welcome to Tea Time with Bunky. This is super recent. Welcome to Tea Time with Bunky. I missed you guys. I really did. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Tea Time with Bunky. I'm just over here sharing this post. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Tea Time with Bunky. I missed you. I wasn't here last week. You know, sometimes you need a break, and so I just did what I had to do. I was a little bit out of commission last week. So I thank you all for taking this journey with me. Those that are new to Tea Time with Bunky, we're going 4 years strong. A little bit about Tea Time with Bunky. You can catch me every Thursday on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. For those that are on Instagram right now, please go over to my YouTube page, Tea Time with Bunky, so that I can see your conversation, because if you're typing me a message, I will not be able to see it. And the goal is always to interact with everybody so your questions and your voices can be heard. A little bit about Tea Time with Bunky. It's more than just a show. It's a safe space, a welcoming space where everyone can share their stories and life journeys, from survivors and advocates to community leaders and everyday voices. No story is too big and no story is too small. Each episode dives deep into topics that matter, from social issues and politics to self-healing and transformation. Like I said, you can catch me every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram to become a part of a community that believes in the power of sharing and healing together. So welcome to Tea Time with Bunky. A little bit of announcements that I need to get out. We have our primary elections coming up. You know, I always tell you guys how important it is to vote, even though I hate voting. I vote though. I hate politics, period. It's terrible. But we have the primaries coming up June 24th, Sullivan County. Early voting. We have early voting June 14th to June 22nd. And our general elections, no, that's the early voting. Primaries is June 24th. Early voting is June 14th to June 22nd. General elections are November 4th, with early voting October 25th through November 2nd. And polls open at 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. And who is going to be on a Democratic ticket for the primaries? You got to pick two people. Okay, so that's where it's important to know your candidates. The two people running for county committee, so I'm guessing that's legislative seats. That's what I'm guessing. You have Nathan Steingart, Ira Steingart, Stanley Wagner, and Pamela A. Cravo Wagner. I've only heard of two of these people. I don't know. I guess I have to go out there and learn who they are, so that way I can get my informed decision in. And for Republican Party, we only have Republicans running for the sheriff's department, and that is Timothy Diamond, and he's going against Michael Schiff, he's been the sheriff for like ever. So Timothy Diamond is running against him. Timothy Diamond is a retired New York State trooper. Detective or something. I'm not really sure, but I know he's in law enforcement also. And the people running for county committee against the 4 Democrats that I just named is Joseph Perello, Karen Perello, Jeff Weiner, and James Ginty. So we have 2 people on the Democratic Party and 2 people on the Republican Party that are family. Nepotism a little bit. Just a little bit. All right. So without further ado, let me hey, Finally TV in the house. Hey, Gabe. A little bit about my guest. I'm excited about this. Mr. Ricardo Perry is the lead organizer of Unity for Black Progress, a transformative movement committed to uniting Black communities through education, economic empowerment, and grassroots leadership. With over 15 years in the nonprofit sector and 12-year background in law enforcement, including 10 years as a school resource officer, Ricardo brings a rare and powerful blend of frontline experience and visionary leadership. His unique path allows him to bridge worlds, challenge systems, and advocate for real solutions that center the voices for the people most impacted. Ricardo is driven by a bold vision to build self sustaining systems that reflect the power, resilience, and brilliance of Black communities. His work is deeply rooted in community, powered by unity, and guided by an unwavering belief in Black progress for us, by us. So, without further ado, my special guest, Mr. Perry. Hello.
Hey, Bunky, how you doing?
I am blessed and highly favored. Yes, I am.
Oh, I love
Yes,
it.
I'm excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for to be on Tea Time with Bunky and share this experience and get this information out there to everybody. So for those that don't know you, myself included, because this is like our real little chats here and there, but you know, for those that don't know you, what are some of the experiences that shaped your path and brought you here?
That's a great question, Bunky. I would say the last two experiences that I've had, really in the last 5 years, have brought me to a place where I realized if our people are going to thrive here in America, it's imperative that we become somewhat independent and self-governing, where we do things for ourselves. And
Okay.
so the situations I worked previously for a uh, nonprofit organization. It was white led,
Okay.
and I experienced while working there a seat at the table. Right, I had a seat at the table. I was involved in some of the decision making programs, etc. And so there were some challenges that the youth and children in our program were the youth and parents and families in our program that they were experiencing. And so I would make various suggestions or recommendations to the leadership, again, leadership being non-Black, of how we could better serve the children and family in our community.
Mhm.
And the suggestions were shot down. Multiple times the suggestion was shot down. And so I realized at that point, while we may have a seat at the table, if we're not at the head of the table, if we're
Mhm.
not final decision makers when it comes to issues facing our communities,
Yes.
decisions will be made from other people's perspective, other people's lens, and it's not ill intent, right? And I want to be clear when I say this. I don't think that non-Black people, when they make decisions for our community, that there's malicious intent behind it. I just
Right.
think that they're making decisions based from their perspective and from their lens. And so, what I would like is for us to lead these efforts.
Mhm.
We should be the ones in our communities leading the efforts to solving the problems because we're closest to it. We relate to the issues,
Right.
and we're better equipped to making decisions for our people. And so that's really one of the major situations that brought me to this place. It's a couple of them, but that was like really the major thing.
Okay. Being at the table and not really having a voice, kind of. You have a whisper.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I think it's good to have a seat at the table, right?
Right.
Because oftentimes we are able to have some influence while we're sitting at the table. But I think we all can agree that at the end of the day, even though we're sitting at the table, if we're not the ones making final decisions,
Right.
the person who is in that position will make a decision from their perspective and from
Right.
their lens and from what they feel is best.
Right. Because they totally can't. They can't relate. Not
Right,
at all. Because
right.
our experience isn't their experience.
Exactly.
And because they got a friend, they always
Yeah,
got a friend, they automatically think they know what's best for,
right.
when they really don't know what's really going on in the house,
Right. I'm glad you brought up this idea of the house, right?
Yeah.
I would liken it to Bunky, if someone were to come to your house, uh, and you got some challenges in your house, you know of the challenges. In
Right.
fact, you know what solutions are necessary to solve these challenges, and you have the capabilities, the intellect, and even the resources in your house to solve these challenges. But someone else comes in and
Right.
says, I don't think you should do it that way, Bunky. I think you should do it this way. Not knowing a whole lot about the environment of your home, they
Right.
come into your house and say, these are the decisions that you need to make.
Yes. And I wouldn't like that
No,
at
no,
all.
nobody would.
No, nobody likes that.
Nobody
Okay,
would.
so let's go before we go further into that. Let's go a little bit into your back. You are you were a police officer. Are you still a police officer?
I'm not. I got out 5 years ago. I did law enforcement for 12 years.
Hmm. Did you? What made you get out?
Um, well, an opportunity presented itself to work in the nonprofit sector full time,
Okay.
doing this mentoring work, and that's really what I was doing while a law enforcement officer. I was mentoring. Um, my second year into being the police, I started a mentoring program, Low Country Youth Services down in Charleston, South Carolina, an organization that still exists to this day. And so that's really where my passion was, youth development, mentoring.
Mhm.
And so about 5 years ago, an opportunity presented itself for me to come out of law enforcement, and work in that field full time. And that's really where I've been ever since.
So while you were in law enforcement, you were actually community policing.
Absolutely. I,
Because I talk about that all the time, the importance of community policing, especially in our communities, because of that underlying fear of the police,
yeah,
which really, um, I really think it's in our DNA.
yeah.
And
Unfortunate.
people don't understand that, and
Yeah.
you know, I laugh about it all the time, but it's funny, but it's not funny. Like people that know me, they are like, my own sons have called me a cop caller. Okay.
Hmm.
So I'm like, I will call the police. I will do that.
Yeah.
I'm just that person. Um, but having law enforcement in my family, um, being my ex-husband was a police officer, like I told you, my son is a police officer. I still get jittery around them,
Yeah.
you know. So it's important. I always talk about it, especially here, Lord God, how important it is for
Yeah.
the police to be out in the community, walking around, knowing the youth and the people. So let's say a mental health crisis arises, right? When they go into that situation, they're not gonna be as quick to want to pull a weapon or
Right.
attack, because they'll be like, oh, that's so and so. They're going through this.
Right.
Let me go and I can talk to them because the person's familiar. So thank you for doing community policing.
You're not a problem. I've always believed that, um, the way to the heart of the community is
Hmm.
through the heart of the community's children, right?
Yeah.
In law enforcement, and I think they've gotten better over the years, right? If they want to have the buy-in of their community, they have to have the buy-in of the children in the community. If the children love you, then the community is going to love you, right?
Right.
If the
Hey,
children is not,
child. No, I'm
yeah,
just calling out people in studio.
oh, I got you. If the children, um, uh, are not afraid of you, then
Right.
the community won't be hesitant to not deal with you. I actually had a conversation recently with a young man that I mentored. He's a police officer now, and we were just talking about how, many in our community specifically are anti law enforcement.
Right.
And he made the statement. He was like, it doesn't matter if you're white, if you're black, they just don't like the police. And
That's true.
I had to explain to him, it's not the individual that they have a problem with, it's the system
It's the system.
that they have a problem with,
Right.
right? But black Americans make up 13% of US population, but 38% of the prison population, right? Well, why is that? Well, we know part of that, is a result of law enforcement,
Hmm.
right? And so I had to explain to him, the issue is not so much the person behind the badge,
Right.
it's the
It's the
badge itself, it's
it's the
the
bad.
system that it represents.
Right.
And it's almost like, if a gang decides to do something great in the community, after they have a history, a credit in a reputation of
Right.
doing, bad things, no
Right.
one's really going to pay attention to the great things, right? Because
No.
they're thinking about all the bad things that you used to do.
Right.
And law enforcement, truth of the matter is, here in America, law enforcement has a history of, doing things unjustly.
Right.
And so that's what the people are afraid of.
Right. Yeah, it's not the officers. I mean, I know some amazing officers, and
Absolutely.
and I am, like I said, if I wasn't for law enforcement, I wouldn't be that person to be like, oh, I'm gonna call them,
Yeah,
not just because my son is one of them, but it's I believe in law and order,
absolutely.
they're there for a reason. It's a job. And like you
Hmm.
said, it's the badge that they're afraid of.
Right.
It's not the person. They don't like it's not the person. They can love the person, play ball with the person, but once they put that
Absolutely.
uniform on, it's a whole different monster.
They're
So
representing a system.
right. But
Yes.
it's a career. Like I tell people all the time, it's a job. Don't hate the job. Just you do better. It's just
Yes.
I got my
No, I
own,
agree. I agree.
so
It's actually a two-part, right? A both and.
yeah.
Um, yes, our people individually and collectively need to do better, and there's a system that needs to be rectified. And so it's a both and situation. One
Mhm.
part, our people need to do a better job at how we interact with law enforcement, and even how we interact with one another. But then there's another part of it that the system just needs to be. There's issues within the systems that needs to be addressed.
Yes. But you being a former a police officer, have you ever, like, this isn't even part of the thing, but I'm just curious because you were out there. Have you ever had a partner that was corrupt and you had to check? I mean, you had to check them because you're in the South. Like that is a whole nother monster right there.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever worked with had a partner that just wasn't doing things right? You saw that when you went in a certain neighborhood, they were a little rougher than they needed to be.
So first, I'll tell you, down here in the South, and I think it might be different up there where you are. We don't have partners.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
we actually drive alone in police vehicles down here. But to answer your question, no, I've never witnessed firsthand corruption among law
Okay.
enforcement officers. Heard about it, but I've never witnessed firsthand corruption among law enforcement. And I actually tell people that the majority of police officers that I've ever dealt with throughout my law enforcement career were great people,
Right.
really great people. But again, just like we said, folks aren't hating them as a person; they hate
Right.
what they represent and what they stand for.
And before we get off this police thing, I just need people to understand that yeah, the law enforcement, they're there. Most of them are there to protect and serve,
Absolutely,
right? They're there to do a job to keep you safe. And
absolutely,
when they go into situations also, they could be heightened because they don't know what they're walking into, you
absolutely.
know. So it's not they shouldn't people shouldn't think that officers should always be cool, calm, and collective. Because if they're walking into a domestic situation or somebody, they're gonna be heightened. It's what it is. So
Well, and as a former law enforcement officer, one of the things that we used to always, say to ourselves, we want to go home at the end of our
yes, I was
shifts,
gonna say that. Yes.
right? And the other reality is there is an evil present in this world that seeks to harm police officers, seeks to harm people in general.
Yeah.
And so, because it's the police officer job to protect the community, protect themselves, absolutely, they're going to be, a high alert and going into
Right.
situations. And I want to say this because I think many people believe that police officers are supposed to be perfect people.
Mhm.
They are not perfect people.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect, and we always have to keep that in mind, especially when they're dealing with high stress situations.
Right.
I hear folks say it all the time. Well, they were trained to do. It doesn't matter how much training you go through.
Right.
If you're dealing with a high stressful situation,
Right.
you're literally, it just your stress,
Right.
your stress level is high, and sometimes people get tunnel visions. Everybody get tunnel vision when
Yeah.
they're in a heightened situation,
In
and
any
so
field.
in any field. So we
In
just
any,
we have to be more gracious towards our police officers,
right.
but at the same time, because this is a both and situation,
Right.
at the same time, we need to challenge the system on the back end of how police officers are handled when they do mess up, right?
Right.
Because if wrong right is right and wrong is wrong. If you did
Right is
something
right.
wrong, then
Yeah.
you gotta deal with the consequences.
Exactly. They really do, and they get away with too much. They do it, and that's it. Because I just don't want people to think I'm police bashing. Because I'm not. I love law enforcement. I do. I'm a law enforcement person, but I just don't like bad police officers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
And
and we definitely, in
this
our,
administration bringing them out,
yeah,
like really bringing them out from under the rocks. It's like,
it's
yo, what
scary.
is wrong?
It's scary.
It's terrifying. They're
Yeah.
bullies with badges.
Yeah.
Personally, that's them kids that got bullied in school,
Yeah.
couldn't fight or whatever, and they come on to law enforcement and then
Yeah.
attack the
But
families.
I always tell folks, and especially the youth that I work with, um, the majority of police officers that I've ever come in contact with and even work with were pretty solid, good-hearted people.
Right,
Um, and even though the one percenters of bad apples in law enforcement tend to shine a light over the
right,
good, it's our responsibility. You who are related to police officers, me who being a former police officer, we have to communicate that specifically to our people,
right,
because it's our people that feel the way they do about law enforcement. We got to
right,
communicate that to them, letting them know, hey, they're good people.
right.
They're good people. It's okay.
I think they know it. They know it, but it's just something, you know. I've heard things like, "Well, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about this one." But no,
Yeah.
they're they do have partners sometimes. They're not always partners.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm like, I know who this person is because I'm connected to them because of my son or because of my ex. So I know this person. They're really a good person, and it's their job. Like
It's
just
their
like
job.
you chose to
Yeah.
work where you work, they chose to work. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So have respect. Lord, we pray for them every day that they get home. And we also pray that when they go out to a call, that
Yeah.
person goes home.
Yeah.
So we pray for
For
both
sure.
ends. So enough with that. Enough with the police officers. So you've been doing this for like what, 15 years now?
Doing
How
what?
long, how long have you been doing the nonprofit?
Well, I've been in a nonprofit space for 15 years. Unity for
Okay.
Black Progress literally is brand new, 6 months.
6 months?
Yes, six
So
months.
this is okay. So let's get down to it.
Yeah.
Well, wait, you had some stuff first. You had this distinguished gentleman. What is
Yes.
that?
So that's the program through Low Country Youth Services, that I started back in '07, '08.
Okay.
And so I stepped away from it 5 years ago when I got out of law enforcement. And my good buddy Ray John Lewis became the executive director and continue running the program. And so today it's still fully operational. They actually have several programs under the Low Country Youth Services banner now, Distinguished Gentlemen's Club being one of them.
And what do they do? What?
They provide group mentoring, some one to one. Essentially, they are working with young men and women now, exposing them to various careers. They do like these monthly, we call them club meetings, where they have various topics, anything dealing with character, social emotional development, leadership. They create spaces where the youth can do some team building exercises, where they are working with one another. And then they have a good bit of volunteers who come in and work with the youth, really on a monthly basis, more than once a month. They come in and work with the youth. So the whole idea of Distinguished Gentlemen's Club specifically is, we were going to set a standard for the young men in our community, and we
Mhm.
were going to push them to live up to that standard.
Okay.
And so they continue to bring young men into the program, and they continue to, raise the mark for them and push them to live up to that mark. I'm a firm believer that uh, it when it comes to our youth, it is not what you see, what you get,
Hmm.
right? Oftentimes, what you see is a symptom of a whole lot of other things that's going on, right? But the
Yeah.
truth of the matter is, there's like really, there's a lot of greatness on the inside of our youth, and all they need is for somebody to come along and help pull that greatness out of them. And
Hmm.
so that's what the team over at Low Country Youth Services do. They work with these youth, and they're intentional about pulling the greatness out of them.
Have you come across any of them as they've gotten older and gone through the program?
Absolutely. I stay in touch with several of them. Many
Okay.
of the boys that I personally mentored are, adults now. They're married. They have children.
Oh, okay.
One of them is a firefighter. Another one became a police officer. A few of them became a police officer. A few of just got through graduating college. In fact, I'm headed to Kentucky next week to attend one of their college
Oh, wow.
graduations. Yeah, so many of them are just really doing great in life. Some of them are starting businesses. Some work we have the Boeing plant where they make airplane parts. They're working. They're doing great. And their story wasn't always, um, uh, roses, right? Peaches. How do they say it?
Peaches and cream.
Peaches are great. Yeah, it wasn't always glamorous,
Hmm.
Bunky. Many of them, uh, family life wasn't the greatest,
Right.
but they had additional support, and the family had additional support through Low Country Youth Services, and I truly believe that many of them are in the position that they're in now, and doing great in life because of the work of Low Country Youth Services.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you, do you think that if, they didn't have positive role models in front of them and support, somebody behind them telling them, okay, you can be great, you can do
Mhm.
this, you don't have to settle, if they would be in the positions that they are now? You answered that. So,
I've received multiple messages over the years that have said the exact same thing. You know, one kid to this day, and I call them all kids, even though they're in their
mhm,
20s. He'll still send me a random text that says OP, and they used to call me OP. Some still do. OP, Officer Perry. Uh,
okay.
uh, you saved my life, right? Like, and he's currently working for the city. I forgot what he's doing, but he's working for the city. But every now and then I'll get a random text from him and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, I just want to say thank you again. You saved my life." And I've received multiple texts like that. These young men acknowledge life probably would have been a little bit different for them had they not had the support and the influence of mentors in their life.
Look, Darnell, somebody, Darnell. Look, I can see my Instagram. Darnell Small. Oh, Darnell. Okay, that's funny that you said that because I knew someone in high school that was bullied, and unfortunately, in my younger days, I went to prison, and the kid that was bullied was the correction officer. Yup, yup. That's it's
Yeah,
crazy. But no, thank you for that because I'm sure there are a lot of single mothers that appreciate you
yeah,
because their sons would be either in jail or in prison.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
They became family.
All right.
All the boys that I mentored, they became family.
I
They
love
come
it.
around for the holidays. They know my mom as their nana,
Uh
my
huh.
grandmother as their granny, my aunts as their aunts. They're family, and they'll always be family. They know that my spare bedroom is a space for them if they ever need it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
For just for being there for them, seeing the need and feeling it. Like you left I wouldn't call it a lucrative because you can retire pretty well on a police officer's pension. And and you left that for a nonprofit. So to help, our young boys. So thank you so much. Thank
yeah,
you for that.
no
You
problem.
know, as a basically a single mom. Well, not well, I was single, but every little bit helps.
Yes, absolutely.
Every positive
I tell
statement
people,
helps.
even if you're single or married, if you got a spouse in the home, every child can use a mentor. Every child
Yeah,
can use additional support.
absolutely.
It's just something that's been adults
Yeah.
can use additional support. I have a mentor.
Yes.
As a grown man, I have a mentor. So it's something that we
I need
all
a
need.
mentor. Like, I need a mentor. I got issues. Okay, well, thank you again for that. Let's talk about Unity for Black Progress. Why the name? Where did it come from?
um, the name itself just derived from the concept of the organization. The
Okay.
concept is unity among our people for the purpose of Black progress,
Hmm.
right? So that's literally what we're trying to accomplish here. We want to bring melanated people together
Uh-huh.
specifically to solve the problems in our community.
Now, you've been doing the Unity thing, for 6 months,
Hmm.
right? How has it been trying to get people to come together? Because I see my experience. I mean, like, I'm I don't do what you do, but I've seen in my community when I was first got involved in this, which I really like backed away now. Like, this is what I do now. I'm like, I'll give you the voice here, you come on here, we'll talk about it, but I'm not boots to the ground. We're not doing that. Um, but do you find it hard to get people excited about coming together? Because people just seem complacent. They just seem like, you do it. Like,
Yeah.
mhm,
I actually sent an email. Um, Great question, by the way. I sent the
thank you.
email to our elders council with our board of director. We refer to as our elders council, our council of elders.
And
Uh,
which is in Colorado, Georgia, and South Carolina?
yes, yes. You did your research. I love that.
Yeah, we had
Uh,
a short conversation.
that's right, we did. Um, and in the email, I expressed frustration because while I knew it was going to be somewhat challenging to bring our people together, I
Mhm,
didn't think that it would be extremely challenging.
mhm,
But I'm still very much hopeful. Very much hopeful. I think what has to happen is our people they have to realize that working together collectively
mhm.
should be the norm.
But we know
It's
it's not.
Well, and that's the message that we.
Right.
I really believe that if we continue, I'm talking about everybody that believes in this idea of unity. If we continue to scream out loud,
Mhm.
us working together collectively, then people will start falling in line, right? We all know that this is a principle among most cultures, all cultures,
Yeah.
right? Asian cultures, they work together.
Yes.
Hispanic culture work together. Caucasian culture, they work together, right? That's
Yeah.
one of our biggest issues here in America. Like they keep things
They
among
stick
themselves,
together. They do.
right? And so it's normal. It's a principle that's been practiced for generations, and I believe that because of some of the issues that we've experienced here in America,
Right.
there is a great divide among our people. We've literally been living in survival mode for decades.
Yeah.
And when you're living in survival mode, Bunky, you're literally not thinking about other people. You're thinking about yourself, right?
Yeah.
I gotta get for myself. I have to protect myself, right? Because we're living in
Right.
survival mode. But if we could come out of that survival mode
Mhm.
and realize that the the potential of our people thriving is literally predicated on us working together, we will
Crazy.
it'll be crazy. It would be
Crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
It would be crazy. All of the current issues and disparities facing our people in our communities would not be an issue if we collectively work together. And when I say collectively, I'm not even talking about politics. I'm not talking about religion. I had a conversation this morning with a dear sister of mine, and this is, I told her, this is beyond Democratic and Republican.
Absolutely.
I don't
Yeah.
care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I
Right.
don't care if you're Christian, Buddhist, Muslim. It doesn't matter at this
It doesn't
point.
matter.
If your
Right.
skin is melanated, if your skin looks like mine,
Right.
even if the issues that our people are dealing with doesn't affect you directly, the fact that it affects people that looks like you
Right.
means it affects you.
Right.
Fannie Lou Hamer says it best, and I might misquote it, but this is the sentiment. She said, unless all of us are free, none of us are free. Unless
Yes.
all of us are free, none of us are free. And so we have to be intentional about pushing this message out that in order to solve our problems, we can't depend on the government. We can't depend on the system that was
See that?
created never for us. The system
Never.
was never created for us.
Mm-mm.
We can't depend on non-Black people to come into our communities to solve our problem.
And rescue us. Right.
We have the intelligence. We have the resources. We are $1.4 trillion. We have $1.44 trillion spending power, buying power. Like we have the ability to make this happen. We just have to focus on a mission. And what's that mission? That mission, in my opinion, is education, economic mobility, and community empowerment. If we can all agree that our people are at the bottom of the list when it comes to education,
Yeah.
when it comes to wealth in this country, we all can agree that something needs to be done. And what has been done up until now is not working, right? It's working for some. Again, there are a few people coming out of that hole, but the majority of our people are still stuck in that hole.
And do you think it's because of the well, I do the trauma, the mistrust. Um
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
everybody is like out, they're out for themselves, and they see when we come, because we've shown our power coming together.
Yes.
Boy, is that something and amazing.
Yes.
But then it started to go away. Like
Well, and
like
that's our issue. Our issue, and I say it all the time. We know how to come together. We've done it multiple times over generations. Our people have come together. Even here recently, this generation, we've come together through situations with George Floyd. Our
yeah,
people came together,
yeah.
right? Sometimes even online, right? If there's situations,
Kamala
uh,
Harris.
right,
What?
we came together, right? Our people know how to come together. The
Yeah.
challenge is when the hype goes down, when the emotions are leveled, we don't stay together, right? We have to come together intentionally, not based off emotions,
Right.
but based off facts, based off reality. We need to come together intentionally, strategize, and then solve the problems in our community. And stop. We got to waiting for other people to do it for us. And again, I understand how necessary the political system is and how necessary it is for us to challenge policies. I understand that, and I believe there is a part for that. But I do not believe, Bunky, that that's the priority,
Hmm.
because the reality is we have equality here in America, right? We can create the same opportunities that other people have. We can do
Hmm.
that, right? Um, that's I really feel like that's what where we need to put our energy.
So that's the when you say sustaining a self-sustaining system, is that what you mean? Like
Y-
ground
Yeah,
level, what does that look like?
long term, Bunky. What I imagine is our people governing ourselves
Hmm.
through educational system, through an economic system, even through a political system, right? We govern ourselves, as in we do not have non-Black people in power over us, right? So our educational system, currently we have non-Black people in power over us. They control what our children learn, right? and
Yes.
and if we're talking about some stats when it comes to education, most of our children are in underfunded schools. Black students are 3 times more likely to be in underfunded schools. with limited access to advanced courses. This is research. This is evidence.
Mhm.
15% of Black eighth graders are proficient in math. 15% compared to 44% of white students. This is the public school system here in America.
Mhm.
Our
That they're
children,
trying to dismantle.
literally, but our children, they're not slow.
No,
They're not incompetent. They're
no.
very intelligent. They're very
They're
smart,
brilliant.
but
Yeah,
they're in environments that's not
right.
governed by us.
No, it's totally not. And it's them trying to strip away our history and pull things out that happened to us. And,
But
so
but
yeah,
we
it's
wouldn't
not,
have to worry about that, Bunky, if we had our own educational system.
that would be interesting because it's like this, this administration gives me so much anxiety. I mean, I can't even watch the news every day. It's like my nerves just get
Man,
shot.
listen, I'm telling you, every time I see something new happening with this administration, it's fuel.
Yeah,
It is fuel for me to continue to push this message out. We got to take care of ourselves. When they started scrapping DEI, literally, I was like, "Eh,
that
do
was
we see it, guys? Are we willing to now create our own so we don't
yeah.
have to worry about sitting at other people's table, right?
Hmm.
Because that's really what DEI is all about. Other folks, other perspectives at
Right.
the seat of the
Oh yeah, they
table.
don't want that.
No,
No, they don't.
no, no. Now, while we understand who benefited most from DEI, white women,
Yes, we do.
uh, it many of our people still benefited from it. They
Yes.
didn't benefit from it the most, but they still benefit from it. And you got to ask the question, Bunky, why is it that when people think of DEI, they don't think about white women? They think about black people.
But that's like social services and food stamps and stuff.
They think
Hello, I
about
used to
black
work for
people.
the county. I know who was getting what. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? So if they automatically throw it at black people, they
Yeah.
always think we're trying to you're trying to get over on the system. Like that's where all that lazy that the
Yep.
rhetoric they talk about.
Yep.
When we're like the strongest people in the world. I
Okay.
like, come on, y'all. I'm like, we
Okay.
built America. Like, we
Okay.
built this country.
Okay.
My
That's right.
ancestors built this place. So, but it's just another way to put us down and try to make themselves in their mind greater than,
Yeah.
because there's something about us that just bothers them so
Well,
bad.
and I'm gonna be honest with you, Bunky. I am not the type to focus on them in that manner, right?
Right.
Because the reality is, uh, you cannot change the heart of people.
No, you
If
can't.
they're gonna hate you for the color of your skin, they're gonna
Yeah.
hate you for the color. It ain't
That's
nothing you can
it.
do
And
about
that's
that,
on them. That's
right? I made this a video the other day on TikTok, and I was talking about how I believe we can um, we can diminish the effects of racism. Like I really believe this is possible, and the way we diminish the effects of racism is by not having white people in authority and power over black people,
but
right?
how would you do that though?
Again, it's systems, right?
Okay.
If we were in control of our own systems here in America, if we were in control of our own systems, still while being a part of this American society, this country,
Mm-hmm.
if we were in control of it and not if we had our own political party,
Mm-hmm.
if we had our own banking system where they're the ones providing the loans and we don't have to depend
The black
on,
bank.
right, the black
It's
banks, we
out
don't have to,
there. It's out
right,
there.
but it's not many of them, right?
No.
And so that's what needs to be built. And
Right.
I really believe that if we started focus on building these institutions
Mm-hmm.
that can provide greater services to our people, we
Right.
would not be saying, "Oh, I didn't get the loan because of racism. I
Right.
didn't get the loan because of redlining." Like we wouldn't be able to say that because now it's black people running it. Now I'm not saying that issues will not persist. Black people are running the systems. I know issues will persist, but it would not be a racism issue,
Right.
right? And nobody would be able to say this is racism. It's only racism when white people are in power
Right.
and authority over us,
Yeah.
right? We're talking about power and privilege here. And black people don't have power or privilege here in America, so we can't be racist. And so I just really believe the effects of racism, while we can't get rid of racism itself, the effects of racism could be greatly diminished
Mhm.
if if Black people were leading, leading the efforts in our communities.
Now, how do you think we can have more conversations like this going on out in the communities, and how do we get these type of conversations had? Because um a lot of people will be like, oh, that's nonsense. People, they don't believe in change. They're just so stuck, you know, um, don't see the greater good, don't see our potential. Um, Somebody like you who looks outside the box, do not color within the lines, you're like, no, 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 this isn't how it's supposed to be. And a lot of people don't think like that. So how can these type of conversations be had outside of a
Yeah,
platform like this, or people get to know more about your non for profit or
yeah.
things like that?
First of all, I think it's okay to acknowledge that this is a massive undertaking.
Yes.
It's a massive undertaking. We're talking about 40 plus million Black people here in America. We're trying to bring together, right?
Hmm.
So it's a massive undertaking. But I believe it's possible if we're loud about it, right? So let's think about what's loud currently in our country. Um, uh, DEI was loud a few months ago, right?
Hmm.
Companies started moving away from DEI practices, etc. Right? These things became loud. There are other things that we are dealing with in our country that are loud, and the reason why they're loud is because everybody's talking about it.
Right.
When you open social media, everybody's talking about it.
Yes.
When you turn on the news, for those that still watch news on the TV, everybody's they're talking about it,
Right.
right? Everybody in barbershops, they're talking about it. At home, they're talking about it. At the kitchen table, they're talking about it. So these things become loud because everybody's talking about it. Okay, great. So we know how to make things loud.
Right.
What if at the barbershop, at the kitchen table, at at church on Sunday, the conversation is all about unity of Black people?
Hmm.
What if everybody started talking about unity among our people and start talking about how to be united, right?
Right.
What if that was the dominant conversation among our people? What if when something major happened in our world that doesn't have anything to do with Black people, we didn't spend too much energy on it because we're focusing on what's most important, and that's unity among our people? What if that were the case,
Hmm.
Bunky, I believe it would begin to change minds. It would begin to shape a new culture among our people, a culture where we start looking out for one another. I told somebody the other day, I said, we have to make unity trendy because when our people are trendy, we are very much trendy. We love
You're
a
very
trend.
trendy.
We
Yes.
love a trend. If we can make unity trendy,
Right.
then that trend would turn into a movement, and that movement would bring about lasting change in our community.
Well, Chris, Mr. Ketcherack from In the Studio with the Rec Boys, wanted to know, how do we have more of these conversations in our communities, like in the
Yes.
communities?
So I'll tell you one of the things that we're doing. So we host UBP, Unity for Black Progress. We host family meetings. Right. When I was younger, when there was issues in the home, mom would call a family meeting. Me, my sister,
Okay.
my mom. We would sit at the dinner table, and she would have the conversation with us about the issues in the house. Right.
Hmm.
And then she would talk about the solutions to solving these issues. And so we started doing family meetings about 2 months ago. They're virtual, but our goal is to have family meetings not only in the virtual space but out in the community. I want to go up to these churches and say, hey, can we come in 30 minutes of your Bible study on a weeknight and have a family meeting with your congregation, right?
Hmm.
We got to have these family meetings, and we got to start talking about how do we become an independent people in this country and not depend on government and not depend on white-led nonprofit organizations to solve our problems. And we got to keep having that conversation. And then when we leave the family meeting, we need to go and have the conversation with our own families, right?
Hmm.
All right. When we have the family gathering or the cookout, and
Right.
we're sitting around just chatting, we need to talk about how important it is for us to be united and the strategies that we're putting in place to be united to solve these problems. I really believe that's how it's going to happen.
We have to wait. Instead, we as a people look to get even instead of calling a spade and dealing with them accordingly. Instead of what I've noticed is, I mean, the unity thing, I love it, but we're not. There's so much divide in within our community, and it's really sad and heartbreaking. You know, um, that's the problem that I see. Like we're hindering us, like so we're stopping our own unity.
Well, there's a great divide because there are other
Oh,
things that
yeah,
are a
no,
priority to us.
it's time. We're not the minority anymore. We're the majority. We just need to figure out how to come together. We have to figure out how to come together.
Yeah, whoever said that,
Mr.
that's what.
Catch Chris
Yeah,
from
that's what
Institute Director.
UBP is doing, right? When he said we have to figure out how to come together, that's what we're doing.
Mhm.
We've created a space for Black people to come together so that we can strategize on how to solve
There's
the
no
problems in our
accountability.
community.
With what? Shot? No accountability with the people?
But
I
what I
think
was
you're
going to
talking about him.
say, Bunky, when you talk about the division, there are other things that are priority to us, right?
Right.
Political parties are a priority. This political parties divide us.
Yes.
Religion is a
Divides us.
priority.
Hate
It
religion.
it divides us, right? And so we look at the political party, we look at religion, we look at status, right? That's another thing that divides us, and that comes in between of our black. It comes in between our blackness.
Yes.
That's the
Yeah.
challenge. The challenge is we're allowing other things to come in
To
between our
infiltrate.
blackness.
Yeah. To
But
crack our foundation,
yeah,
basically.
but if we again, I don't care where you are on a political spectrum. I
Right.
don't care where you are on a religious spectrum.
Right.
You have to acknowledge these disparities in our community,
Yes.
and you have to acknowledge how they were created in the first place. Right?
Yeah.
I'm so tired of hearing people say Black people just need to strap up their boots. The
Strap up
reality
their
is,
boots.
yeah, man, folks say Black people need to strap up their boots, get to work, and then they'll come out of their situation. But we're literally kicked out, right? We became free
We don't have
in a
laces.
world without boots. They literally kicked us out and said, "Y'all are free now," and didn't give us anything to
No.
build on. And the things that they did give us, or even the things that we created, they took from us.
Yes, they did. Or
They
burnt
took
it
from us.
down.
They burnt it down, right?
Yes.
So yes, I believe we have to work, and Black people are willing to work.
Yeah.
But the challenges that are up against us is completely different from the challenges up against any other culture or race
Absolutely.
in this country.
Absolutely. And we know that. They don't get it. We know that though.
Yeah.
Chris wanted to know where he's in the South. You're South
Yeah, I'm
Carolina?
in South Carolina. But our goal is to spread UBP across this country. This is not, and if you notice, I don't refer to myself as founder or president. I refer
Mhm,
to myself as lead organizer only because this is not my organization. This is
mhm.
our organization. And so when I talk to our people, it's about us co-leading in our own spaces and solving the problems together, right?
Right,
All I'm doing, Bunky, is creating the space for us to come together,
right.
and I'm pushing the message out. My hope and prayer is that others would push the message out. I do when I hear people say people need to come together, our people need to come together. Before I started Unity for Black Progress,
Mhm.
I used to ask the question, well, how? Right? I think somebody came on and
Yeah,
asked that question. How do we come together? Well,
right.
this is how we come together. Unity for Black Progress is how we come together. My hope is that we could put UBP in everywhere where our people are,
And that's your
and
website, unityforblackprogress.org.
unityforblackprogress.org. Yeah. And we solve our problems. We lead
Mhm.
the effort. We lead the efforts.
Okay. Have you seen any sort of changes like in your area or whatever since this has started? I mean, like this is all new. Like, have you seen that the conversation? I mean,
Absolutely.
it has to start somewhere, right? So
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
new.
No,
So like,
we so I've been pushing the message out. We do, biweekly newsletters. We've been having the family meetings.
and how
I'm
many
on.
people are involved? How many people?
So on our council of elders, we have 5 individuals on our council. There's three individuals, me included, who kind of established the foundation of the organization.
Okay.
And then we have multiple members at this point who are $10 a month
Yeah,
donors.
I have that right
and
there.
and that's how you become a member, right? You join
Okay.
Unity for Black Progress by becoming a $10 a month um, uh,
Or you can invest 100.
donor, right? And
Do
so,
whatever you want, whatever your heart
oh,
desires.
absolutely. But there's
Yeah.
different tiers to the membership, right? So the ultimate goal, Bunky, is that one, we'll be able to provide funding to Black-led, Black-serving organizations, right? So we're in phase one of our project where we're igniting passion, igniting this message in our communities, so people will know there is an opportunity for Black people to come together. So that's phase one, ignite. We're trying to raise $500,000 in phase one. Once we get to the end of phase one, that $500,000, then we'll begin to enter into phase two, which is raise 1 million. But in that process, we'll be working with Black-led, Black-serving organizations, making sure that they have a sturdy foundation, so that when it's time for us to fund them, they could be good stewards over the money.
Mhm.
We
So
we
where does
want
the money go though? Like, what is it for? Like, where is it distributed to? Like, what's it for?
right now.
No, once the money starts coming in, I mean,
Yeah.
everything has a cost,
Yeah,
after you
so
pay the.
so right now, well, once the money start coming in, those funds, once we reach phase three, those funds will be used for Black-led, Black-serving nonprofit organizations. So if your focus is education, economic mobility, or community empowerment, if you fall in one of those three, we call pillars, you can apply for funding with our organization, and we would use the money from our people
Mhm.
to help you build capacity within your organization.
So it's
And
like a loan. It's like a
no,
loan.
no
No.
loan, because you ain't got to
Okay.
pay it back, right?
Okay.
We're it's literally it's a grant, right?
Okay.
We're going to provide you the funding for your organization. If it's aligning with one of our three pillars, we're going to provide you funding so that you can continue to work. Because right now, our people are struggling. Black leaders in the nonprofit space are struggling to build capacity because they don't have access to the wealth that our white colleagues have, right?
Right.
I've worked in organizations, Bunky, where literally in a year's time they've raised over $1 million, and our Black leaders, they're struggling to raise 500,000. Right? We don't have that level of access to the wealth. 85% of the wealth in America is held by white people, while Black people have less than 3%. We have less than 3% of the wealth here in America. Uh, so this is why it's going to require all hands on deck. And I tell people all the time, if you, again, it doesn't matter your political affiliation, your religion, if you're Black, if you're melanated, it's going to require your help.
Wow. That's true. That's true. We need all the help we can get. But it starts with the trust. They got to learn how to trust and learn how to unite. And
Absolutely.
not think that there's always something going on in the background. Like
Right.
we're always questioning something because that's just how
But we
we
got to
were like
operate with
trained to
integrity.
be.
We have to operate with integrity, right? This is
Yeah.
why there's a lot of distrust among the Black community. The some of our people, and it's unfortunate, but some of our people do not operate with integrity.
No.
There's no accountability. There's no
You mean like
transparency.
our government right now? Sound like sound like
Yeah,
those people.
yeah. But you know what? They gonna do what they do, right?
Yeah.
And this is why I say while I'm here and I understand we have to deal with those, I am not super concerned about what
Right.
they're doing. I'm more concerned about what we're doing, right? And so we got to make sure that our people are practicing integrity, that we're being transparent, and that we're holding people accountable for what they're supposed to be doing, the services that they're providing, the money that they're receiving. They need to be good stewards over it. And so
Right.
we're gonna have things in place to ensure that organizations are doing what they're supposed to do.
I appreciate that. And you know what's crazy? We didn't even get into a fraction of anything.
Really?
I'm dead serious. So I'm gonna have to have you back. But listen, listen. Um, if someone is watching this, right, and feeling discouraged or disconnected, and feel like they don't matter, because a lot of people feel that way. What would you say directly to them to make them hear you and say, we're gonna be all right? Like, basically,
Yeah.
we're gonna be all right.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is if you believe you don't matter, that's a lie, right? It's a lie, and it is not truth. It is not a fact. The truth is, and the fact is, you do matter, and you are just as much as important as I am, as Bunky is, and we need you. When I say we need you, hear me so clearly. We need you. We cannot operate functionally apart from each other.
Right.
We cannot operate functionally apart from each other. We literally, the eye cannot say to the ear, because you're not the eye, you're not important. The arm can't say to the feet, because you're not the arm, you're not important. Every piece of the body is important. Every piece of the body is needed. And I don't care what your role is. I don't care, again, who you are. At this point, it's all about our people. It's all about our people. We got to get past this stage of, oh, I'm going to look out for myself because our
Right.
people don't look out for me. That ain't everybody.
Right.
We got to stop. We got to stop taking the few that have hurt us and
Right.
applying it to everybody. The truth of the matter is, I love being around our people.
Do you?
Even the ones that get on my nerves. I love being around our people.
Yeah.
And so I believe that, as we continue to build this, build community, people will see, the narrative for Black people isn't really what it is.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a comfort zone. It's a
Yeah.
comfort
Yeah.
space. Like,
Yeah. We
if
just
I
got
had
to
to
get people
choose
out of that.
between the
Yeah.
group, I'll go with what I'm familiar with.
Right.
Basically,
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
okay. Before I let you go, um, before closing, give me one truth that you stand on, no matter what.
One truth that I stand on is, you got it in your title, the power of us. Uh, us collectively is a powerful force
Mhm.
that cannot be reckoned with. That's a truth I stand on. That's a truth I'm going to take to my grave. If we come together as a people, we are a power that cannot be reckoned with.
Yeah, we're like a tsunami. We will go
Literally,
tear stuff up. In a good way.
literally,
In a
in a
good
good
way,
way.
because we've
Absolutely,
shown the power
and
of
we've
who
done
we
it.
are.
We've
You
done it.
know. And I want people to, they can go to unityforblackprogress.org, find out more about you, get more information, and also go follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Yep.
Unity for Black Progress. Um,
And I'll say, when they go to our website, our next family meeting is June 9th.
June
That's
9th.
June 9th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But they'll see it on the website. They can register to receive the Zoom link to attend the family meeting. We'll talk about the issues in our community, and we'll talk about the solutions that we have in place to solve these problems.
Next family meeting. I'm gonna register.
Ah, nice.
I mean, I'm not gonna say nothing. I just want to listen.
No, yeah. No, I want you to be there.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It went so quick. I'm like, did I tell him it ends at 8? I don't know. I'm gonna have you back, because we gotta do a follow-up and get more
You just
into it,
let me know.
since we got the beginning stuff out.
Okay.
Um, and thank you from the single mothers of those little boys that you helped, the distinguished gentleman. Thank you so much for being there for those little fellas that are now, doing their thing. Congratulations to them. Yeah, our boys, us boy moms, our boys are everything to us. And when
Yeah, oh
somebody
yeah.
comes in, my boys were blessed to have a village.
Good.
I come from a large family, so they had lots of positive role models around them. And their dad's a great guy.
Mhm.
I didn't see it at the time, but but it's like,
Don't come for
but
that, man, Bunky.
I know, right? So it's, we need that. We need people like you. So just keep being amazing. I appreciate you. I
Thank you.
appreciate everybody that tuned in. When we go off, just stay 1 minute.
Okay.
Everybody, you can catch Tea Time with Bunky every Thursday, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to be on the show, hit me up. Send me a message on Messenger or my email, teatimewithbunky@gmail.com, and we can see how we can get your story out there, because I found that these conversations that I have, people feel like they're the only ones going through it, and somebody else's story just heals and touches someone else. And that's the power of tea time, and that's what we do. So I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful night. Stay blessed. Be kind to somebody, because you don't know what somebody is going through. I'll see you next week.